New York is one of the most expensive destinations on the planet. It's very easy to spend here and very hard to keep your wallet closed. In this video, I'll share the 15 ways tourists keep wasting their money and how to avoid these common mistakes. Take some notes. Here we go. We're gonna start with something that shocks many of my foreign viewers. In fact, it's so common that I even tend to overspend on this myself. That's portion size of the food here. Many times you'll order food at restaurants and come to the realization that this is way too much food for one person. Perhaps we should have ordered less. With most Airbnbs being banned, you probably don't have a full-size fridge in your hotel and may end up throwing out or just wasting money on a ton of food here. I was out for my birthday just last week with Adriana and my son, and we ordered a large pie at an Italian restaurant, which was way too much for us. The portions here are no joke, but living here we have a fridge, so it's not a problem. It never hurts to ask your waiter, hey, is this better for sharing? How big is the portion? They're gonna be honest with you. And worst case, you can always order more food rather than stuffing yourself needlessly. The most common type of restaurant I see an issue with food portion size are the Jewish delis, the Katz's and the Sarge's, when you order 2 sandwiches and realize this could have been enough. But then again, that's even more reason to walk around the city, and you'll do plenty of walking when you visit here. Arriving to New York and departing the city from the area airports is one of the most common ways I see my tourists overspending. I used to follow these Facebook groups, and so many of them would comment about these expensive car services doing pickup, which is great if you have a huge group and a ton of luggage or small children, but many people skip out on some easy, low-cost options of getting to Manhattan. Many times these are faster too because of traffic. Let's look at some comments you all sent me. Andrew and Kyla here. We always fly into LaGuardia, and we used to pay for a taxi to our hotel in Long Island City. The Q70 bus takes us to an MTA station that we use to take the subway the rest of the way. The method is essentially free. We buy unlimited 7-day subway passes and faster than a taxi due to the bus lanes from the airport. Thank you, Andrew and Kyla, for a great point. At LaGuardia Airport, there is a free bus that you can take, which will put you into the New York City subway system at Jackson Heights, and from there, it's just a subway swipe to get around the city. A great option. Although keep this in mind, LaGuardia does have the best prices to get to Midtown Manhattan, as it is the closest airport to there. Just got back, used the air train and LIRR for the first time, and saved loads over our usual yellow cab. Less than half the price and half the time. Be brave, people. Of all the tips I've ever shared on this channel, the advice about taking the Long Island Railroad from JFK Airport to Midtown is the one I constantly hear was the most helpful, because it's a no-brainer. For $5, you can get direct into Penn Station or into Grand Central in about 20 minutes. Now, the only caveat here is, again, if you have a ton of luggage, or if it's late at night, you're super tired, you don't want to deal with it, fine, spend the extra money on the Uber, the Revel, the car service, whatever that may be. If you want to specifically find out how it's done, watch our video on scams to avoid at the airport. We break down step by step how to get from JFK to Midtown. Buying anything from the gift shops between 8th and 5th Ave in Central Park South and 34th Street. I can't vouch for the gift shop prices at all stores in Midtown, but generally speaking, those ones do have the highest prices for obvious reasons. My wife and I, when we need souvenirs for visitors, when we're going abroad and we want to bring some New York City trinkets, we always shop on Canal Street near Chinatown. So I would say when you're going to Chinatown, doing a little cheap eats crawl, save a little time for some souvenir shopping, and you will definitely get the best prices. And be wary of the knockoff goods and electronics. We just discussed those on my latest scam video. I do not recommend you purchase any of that stuff. Taking Ubers and taxis everywhere, a common way to overspend. Oof, one trip years ago, my friend was afraid to take the subway, so we took Ubers everywhere. Holy F, that added up. I put my foot down when we were in Chinatown, and we needed to head up to a Yankee game. That subway trip was smooth. Not using the subway the first days due to safety concerns. The subway was safe, fast, and easy to use. Wish I had used the subway more, spent way too much on Ubers and taxis. This is a very common occurrence. Tourists watch the news, they hear about some subway violence, and they vow never to set foot underground. And I just think That's a big mistake. You are gonna be forced to spend a fortune on Ubers and taxis. If you're taking those cars during normal business hours within Manhattan, the subway is almost always quicker to the main attractions. Manhattan is extremely connected by subway lines. If you're concerned about your safety and not familiar with the city, I'd recommend not taking the subway after 11 p.m. when there's a lot less people until the morning rush hour. You could also find the indication board, also known as the zebra board, so you know where the subway conductor is sitting for a little added safety, or just try to sit in more crowded subway cars. But don't discount the subway as a transportation method. It's gonna save you time, and it's definitely gonna save you money. Insisting on a meal with a view. Restaurants near Times Square or other tourist attractions. We purposely went to a restaurant with a view of Times Square so we could see it without being in it. Overpriced for meh food. We were paying for the view, but just a heads up, folks, we would rather spend that money on a really great dinner where the food was amazing, or just get a cocktail or dessert at a place like that and save the big dollars for elsewhere. I get this, you want that magical rooftop dining experience. Well, I've got news for you. New York City is more well known for rooftop bars, not rooftop restaurants. And if you're ordering food at a restaurant on a rooftop, the odds are very strong that the food is gonna be mediocre, because the food doesn't have to be good. People are there for the view, not for the food. So if you are looking for amazing food in New York, you'll find it at plenty of places without great views. And then if you must go to a rooftop, well, you can go to one of the 5 observation decks, or better yet, go to Beast and Butterflies on the rooftop of the M Social Hotel. I just went back there after many months, and I can see why so many of my viewers have tagged me there. That view is incredible of Times Square. I enjoyed my $9 Brooklyn Lager so much. They also allow children up there. Definitely one to keep in mind. One of my favorite topics, tipping. I love New York and spending, and yes, I definitely waste and overspend, but that's part of the experience. What I find really annoying is tipping for anything and everything, and tips being added to bills without even knowing it. I'm all for tipping for a service that I asked for. I just don't like the tipping culture. It makes me feel all interactions with people are false, and all they want is your money. I mean, it does feel that way sometimes, that all people in New York want is your money, but tipping is just something you have to accept here. I understand a lot of my viewers coming from Europe, from the UK, are not fans of the New York tipping system, but it is something that the locals deal with, and it's something you just have to accept. As far as overspending on this, I want to remind you that many tourist locations will give auto gratuities on your bill of 18 or 20%, in which case it's fine to leave the bill alone. Where you'd be in danger of overspending here is 1, leaving an additional tip on top of the auto gratuity, which is so easy to do if you don't read the check closely. 2, tipping too much on top of the overall bill. I personally tip 20% of the pre-tax total, not post-tax. Also, many times restaurants with terminals have gratuity options starting at 20%, going up to 30%, and you may feel pressured to leave a lot because the waiter's standing in front of you, but don't. And if you're more curious about the tipping culture in New York, I did an entire video dedicated to that subject. We're about to talk about one of New York's most common scams. Shop around when going to hot dog carts or any cart, TBH. One on one corner will sell a bottle of drink for $5, whilst the next down the block will sell the same bottle for $3. TBH, people say NYC is expensive, but we started splurging towards the end of our trip this year. Shop wisely. Now, I just saw a video of a first-time tourist spending $10 on a hot dog, and we have harped on this topic time and time again, and we're gonna continue to harp on it, and that is when you go to any street food cart, any vendor, and the prices are not listed, ask for the price before you order, okay? Because if you don't, and they get a sense that you're not from here, they may charge you whatever they want. I've seen vendors in Midtown selling water bottles for $5 when they should be $2, and if you're curious what a hot dog should actually cost you, around $3. I'm not trying to knock all the street food vendors in New York because most of them are honest, but I've heard about some deceptive practices in the Times Square area and around Central Park, so be careful. The hop-on, hop-off buses, these are widespread in every major city. I was never into these. I think for many people, they're not worth the money, which is what, 50 to 60 bucks a person. New York's the kind of city you need to experience walking. If you're on a bus, you're not gonna interact with any locals. There's gonna be no chance for you to wander into a shop or have a different experience than all the other tourists. And if it's super hot, super cold, raining, snowing, you may not wanna ride them. The touristy parts of New York are actually pretty compact. You can see most of the major sites of Manhattan in 3 full days if you plan your time properly. These buses just scratch the surface. There are exceptions. If you're a person with a disability that affects your mobility, they're great because sadly not every subway station is accessible. Or if you're traveling with the elderly, these could be a viable option. Otherwise, I would recommend a walking tour or just wandering neighborhoods versus the hop-on, hop-off buses. Paying full price for Broadway tickets. There are so many ways to save money on Broadway tickets that many tourists completely overlook. The last thing you want to do is just show up at a theater and buy tickets the day of. Many travelers know about lining up at the TKTS booth the day of a show to get good discounts, and yes, this is a tried and true method. There's also Broadway lotteries you can enter. Many are digital these days. This website puts the most popular ones together. Keep in mind there's typically a limit of only 2 tickets per entry for this. You can also aim to see the less popular shows, which many times on sites like StubHub have cheaper prices on the secondary market. But if you must see the hottest show during the Christmas season, there's almost no way around spending the kind of money that you would for a fancy steak dinner for it. Use some of those discount methods. And if you want to find out about more common mistakes that tourists make when they visit Broadway, check out this video we shot with a Broadway lifer. There are some incredible tips on here. Misusing attraction passes. I am not going to call attraction passes a waste of money if you use them correctly. Let's take a step back. I'm referring to the passes that give you access to multiple observation decks, museums, and attractions in one day or over the course of a few days. There's a few companies that sell them. If you do the math, you can save money. I do have issues with them. And the biggest is you're doing all the touristy stuff and having the same trip as everyone else. Some people don't mind that, and I respect it. The problem comes when you go buy an all-inclusive pass for 3 days for $259 and you don't go hopping around nonstop. My point is, figure out what you want to see, do the math, and see if it makes sense to buy one of the attraction passes. I don't think any tourist needs more than 1 observation deck on a trip. The queues can be long, and if the weather sucks, then you may not even have an enjoyable experience at it. Not checking restaurant prices before being seated. A restaurant might look nice from the outside, but unless you've read reviews or someone recommended it to you, take a look at the menu, a good look at the menu before walking in. Because once you're settled in at your table, the waiter has brought your water and bread already. It could be just a little awkward if there's some sticker shock, which is very common in New York, where the price of eating can be high, quite high. Expensive roaming charges. Don't just show up to New York without some kind of plan for your cell phone. If I were to fly to almost any country, my service Verizon would charge me a set roaming fee per day. Either check if your local carrier offers a cheap roaming option to the US, or better yet, use an eSIM, which you can install on your phone before you arrive. I've had great success with Olafly, who has partnered with us on the channel before. If you want to check out their plans with a 5% coupon code, see the link in the description or use this QR code right here. I used Olafly all over Europe, had nothing but good experiences. Overpriced hotel stays. This one is pretty straightforward. If you want to book a hotel near Times Square during the holiday season, you will spend $400 to $700 a night, and there's very little you can do about it. 2 ways to lessen the burden of hotel stays. One is to stay outside of the Midtown Manhattan bubble. Even lower Manhattan has better prices, but better yet, check downtown Brooklyn, check Long Island City, Queens, check even closer to the airport in Flushing. Number 2, come during a non-peak period. Anywhere from January 10th to April 1st will likely get you a better price, and the tourist sites will be way less crowded too. And our last few winters have been pretty mild, so you could get lucky. This is a really good one. Eating out at every meal. Sometimes it's nice to just buy something from the supermarket and eat it in the park. While you may see me eating out all the time in the channel, that's because we're filming content and I need exciting stuff for you guys. But in truth, I don't go out to eat every day, maybe once or twice a week when I'm not filming. That's because eating out nonstop in New York will put a dent in your wallet faster than almost anything. If you can find a Trader Joe's or even a deli, a bodega, go buy a salad or a sandwich and sit at one of the city's many parks for breakfast or lunch once in a while. We actually do have a great culture of quick-serve, grab-and-go food spots at pretty reasonable prices. A few slices of pizza work equally well, or have the most New York breakfast possible, walk into a bodega and order a bacon, egg, and cheese, salt, pepper, ketchup. Do it just like that, and they might even think you live here. Carriage rides in Central Park. I am not a fan of these at all. There's been some bad stories out there about some of the suffering of the horses, and it's about $65 for 20 minutes, not counting tip. Do an hour, and you're basically paying your airfare here. I think a better deal would be booking a pedicab in advance. Now, there's some really popular ones. You can read the reviews. I hear about this Frankie Legs guy all the time. He's probably worth investigating. And don't ever jump blindly onto a pedicab because they charge between $3 to $9 a minute. Do the math on that for a 30-minute ride. And if you don't like any of those options, there's plenty of much cheaper walking tours out there. Now that you know how to save money in New York, in this video we share the most common scams that tourists tend to fall for. You don't want to be a victim, so watch this next.